we fought, we kicked off Long Island, Battle of Brooklyn, so-called. There's no longer Brooklyn is the town.
Most, yeah. The more standard name is Battle of Long Island.
Yeah, because it's fought Long Island.
This was in August. I mean,
August 27th.
All right.
Tomorrow
Oh,
is the
okay.
anniversary of that event.
Das war die Strategie. Die Leute, die Kinder hatten, haben über die Schulter von denen.
Kannst du sehen, das möchte? Weißt du, man hier reinschaut? Eine Rolle, die drin, das ist schön dünn. Dann eine kalte Wärme aus.
And that's because it is called a 3-pounder because that's the weight of the shot it fires. It fires either a 3-pound solid cannonball or a 3-pound charge of 32 musket balls called grape shot. Now, if you use a close range, it can be easily maneuvered on the battlefield very quickly. Only a few men can wield it onto the battlefield in a short amount of time because of how light it is. It's a light field cannon. Now, it takes a crew of 6 stout men to operate the cannon. The first man is the first matros, and he's holding the worm. Andy, show everyone the worm. Oh, there we go. I'm back again. That is an iron corkscrew at the end of the ramrod, and that is used to search the bore of the gun for the remnants of the last powder charge. Don't want anything in there, and that's sent down on search the piece. At the same time, the man with the pick and prime should be covering the vent hole. Yep. That man behind is covering the vent hole with his finger to make sure that there's no air going inside the cannon. The second man is the second matros. He has the sponge rammer. Show the sponge rammer. Now that is a sheepskin dipped in water so it acts like a sponge to extinguish embers at the bore of the gun. Now listen. Did you hear that pop? That thud means that there's a vacuum inside the cannon because the man behind is covering the vent hole. Fire cannot burn in a vacuum. So now anything that was burning down there is now extinguished. Now, if we did not hear that pop and he was swabbing that gun, that means that everyone on the cannon is now in danger because now we can be putting powder down into something burning at the bottom of the gun. So that means the person who should be covering the vent hole is now endangering everyone. So at the end of the battle, that person will be punished severely for endangering everyone. They will be tied to the front of the cannon by the wheels and whipped 10 times on their bare back. And that was called kissing the gunner's daughter. So everyone could remember never to forget to cover that vent hole. And trust me, that man will never forget to. All right, now the cannon is ready to be loaded. Now the next command is bring forth the cartridge. Now the powder monkey, backed by the cartridge box, would take a cartridge from the cartridge box and bring it up to the first matros. This is just a dry run, everyone. We're not doing powder as of right now. Then they will load it into the cannon, unload, and then ram the charge. Watch what he did. He let go of the ramrod. You have to let go of the ramrod as you are packing that cannon because if there's actually something burning down there and that powder goes off, the powder, the cannonball, the ramrod, and the man's arm is going down the field. So he throws the ramrod down. Now the cannon is loaded, it's ready to pick and prime. So now the second gunner has a brass pick. Show everyone brass pick. Brass does not create any sparks, so he can use it to safely pick the powder charge. So he can introduce a quill, which is a priming fuse, which is a bird's feather, a bird's quill from a feather that's soaked in, that's filled with gunpowder, so it acts as a fuse. So now the cannon is ready to be fired. He will cover it to protect the fuse. Now the first gunner now carries the lens stock. Show everyone the lens stock, Rich. The lens stock carries the slow match. The slow match is a linen or cotton rope treated with saltpeter, so it burns very slowly but very hot, like the end of a cigar or cigarette. So on the command of make ready to get fire, everyone will step back. He lifts the lens stock up, and on give fire, moves it down to the fuse, and boom! Now they're going to do it for real. Search the piece. Sponge the piece. Bring forth the cartridge. Load. Ram the charge. Pick and prime. Make ready to get fire. Cover your ears. Get fire! Search the piece. Make ready to get fire. Cover your ears. Get fire! Search the piece. Sponge the piece. Secure the cannon. A good cannon crew can get off 3 to 4 shots in a minute, and that is pretty fast because I can keep up with musket fire. The Hessians, though, the German mercenaries who fought alongside the British in the Revolutionary War, they could actually fire 5 to 6 shots a minute because they didn't do the first 2 steps. They did not worm and they did not sponge. They thought that was cowardice, so they kept on loading as much as they could. But they also had their powder wrapped in lead foil, which didn't burn. The Americans and the British used linen sacks of gunpowder, so that actually burned. So, but again, still very, very, very dangerous. But the Hessians thought that was cowardice to use those safety steps. Thank you very much.
I'm a member of the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. Now, our regiment begins in 1777, right? And of course, many of you know that this battle happened in 1776. But many of the guys who served in the regiment had been in earlier regiments. The 9th Continental Regiment, James Varnum's regiment, they were here in New York. And then of course, Lippett's militia, Rhode Island militia, they were here in New York. So many of the guys who came and fought in New York at Long Island and here at Brooklyn would ultimately re-up or reassign themselves in 1777 to be part of the 1st Rhode Island. So, to be very technical, 1st Rhode Island wasn't here. Right? But Africans who served in the 1st Rhode Island were here, and that's who we're here to represent. Now, when we hear about this regiment, one of the first things we hear about is our commander, Colonel Christopher Green. We all remember Christopher Green! Yeah! Well, you know where he was in 1775? He went up there to Quebec, Canada. So he was there at Quebec with Benedict Arnold and all those other guys. Arnold got away, but this guy didn't. He got captured and was held by the British well through 1776 into 1777. George Washington had a problem, in 1776. The guys signed up for 3 months, or 6 months, or 9 months. So all the enlistments were over, and he decided in 1777 he's going to change the rules. You have to sign up for 3 years or during the war. Now, for me, 3 years means 3 years. But for George, 3 years meant the duration of the war. So that caused a little problem by the time we got around to 1780 or so, because it was a big issue. So 1777, Washington reorganizes the army, and he says, we're going to have 2 regiments from Rhode Island because it's the smallest of the colonies, and they don't really have many people. And of course, the Rhode Islanders agreed to this, but they actually had some people that they weren't counting. Rhode Island, of course, was a big slave industry colony. That's right, they had the ships. A lot of times we try to blame that on the Southerners. Oh, those Southerners. Oh, guess what? Southerners don't have ships. New Yorkers, Connecticut, Massachusetts, they have ships, and they were the ones who went to Africa, came back to the West Indies, traded it for that nefarious
Rum.
sugar. Of course, rum. You're right. Rum. But at first, it was sugar, right? And we all know that was wonderful, right? Sugar is poisonous and... Your grandmother didn't tell you?
Sweet.
Addictive. Poisonous and addictive. So the Rhode Islanders had a lot of sugar, they had a lot of rum, and they had some extra Africans. Those Africans, they were going to apply to their 2 new regiments as they began to recruit Africans. Continental Congress said, go ahead and do it. We'll pay you $400 for each enslaved person that you free to become a soldier in the Continental Army. So you can imagine how I felt about that. This is a really good deal, right? You get a new suit of clothes, cut to the latest style, made of the latest material, so you be dressed to the 9. I like the other one, to kill. Dressed to kill, right? So a new suit of clothes, $6.66 a month. Yeah! Cash, what? Hey, that's not much money, but if you never had any money, that's pretty good. So a new suit of clothes, $6.66 a month, and freedom. So this is what was the foundation of the 1st Rhode Island Regiment. And we joined in large numbers, once again. By 1777, when the marching started out, we were ready, but we still didn't have our colonel. He was still being held in Canada when he got captured at the Battle of Quebec. So Adam Comstock became our colonel, and he led us through 1777, right? The battles of 1777, well, the first battle that had to happen in New York was a battle against disease. You know what it was called? Smallpox. Smallpox, yeah, you go. Smallpox. Now, smallpox is a problem, because you get smallpox, you get sick, you die. These guys had an idea about inoculations. Guess where they got it from? The Africans. Cowpox, right? How do you get rid of cowpox? You stick a needle in the cowpox, you stick it in the person, you stick it in the next person. You inoculate 100 people, only 2 of them will die, and the rest of them will be. And of course, it was right up the Hudson River at a place called Peekskill. Anybody remember Peekskill? That's where the inoculations went on. That's where we were inoculated. Now that we were inoculated, we were ready to fight. We had our clothes, we had our money, we had our guns, and we had our inoculations. And of course, we ended up in New Jersey, of course. And in New Jersey, we fought the Battle of Red Bank. While the city of Philadelphia was falling, the Rhode Island Regiment was having the only successful skirmish in the Philadelphia campaign. Of course, we'd be going right on from there to Valley Forge. You remember Valley Forge? Cold. And they said that everybody was hungry.
No food.
No food. No meat. No meat. No meat. No meat. No food.
No clothing.
Well, you know what? Actually, there was some flour where you take the flour, put some salt in it, throw it on a hot rock, and guess what? Pancake. Well, not rock cake. Johnny cake. That's right. But all those stories about the starvation at Valley Forge actually come from New Jersey, right? Sleepy Hollow. Mars? No? Oh, maybe Poughkeepsie. The Poughkeepsie encampment, yeah? How about, no? Not Poughkeepsie? There's another one out there in New York, Poughkeepsie, and the one right beside it. Yeah, I think that is it. Newburgh. Poughkeepsie and Newburgh encampments. So Valley Forge was only one out of some 7 encampments. Now, we would eventually serve at all of them, Peekskill, Newburgh, and Poughkeepsie. By the end of the war, our regiment had been pretty beat up, so they took, in 1780, they brought the 1st Rhode Island, which was mostly African, about 80%, and the 2nd Rhode Island, which was mostly white. They put them together, and they became the Rhode Island Regiment. Our last big excursion, of course, was to Yorktown, Virginia. Right? And of course, at Yorktown, Virginia, Captain Stephen Alney led a detachment of Rhode Islanders, black and white, to attack the redoubt on, I believe it's number 10, on the hill at Yorktown, Virginia. They captured it without firing a shot. Why? No, we had plenty of powder, but the reason we didn't fire a shot because we wanted to sneak up on them. We took that battery, that redoubt, without firing a shot, only with bayonets and pure muscle. Captain Stephen Allen. So those are some of the stories of the Rhode Island Regiment. In the end, many of us got our own land bounties. Land! Many of us got free! And of course, many of us died and gave the ultimate sacrifice for the new nation, for our colony of Rhode Island, and for our families and people who are still enslaved. So, keep an eye on us as the battle progresses. We will win.
Yes. Hi, thanks for coming over. To show you how to fire this musket, in case you ever need to fire a musket, you'll know. He's pulling the hammer back. He's biting off the end of the cartridge. He's pouring the powder into the barrel. Now, how fast can you do that? Well, thank you so much for that demonstration. Back there. George, would you like to come up here and say a few words?
Gentleman has come to offer terms. We're prepared to accept very generously your surrender.
Well, good morning, everyone, or should I say this afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. And I hope we're going to be able to defeat these fellows today. I don't know, though. Because, yes, I do know we're grossly outnumbered. But my men also know that this outcome may pertain to the lives of people yet not born, millions of unborn people in the future. So who knows what's going to happen? I just hope we're able to defeat them very quickly. I do have a lot of brave men. I have some brave men up there at the Cotillieu House from Maryland, and I know they're having a hard time fighting against those gentlemen from the Highland regiments as I speak to you right now. But I think our future will be bright. It is going to be a long, long haul. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, who knows? This may go on for another 7 long years. I do not want to see the city of New York occupied by the British, especially if it will end up being 7 long years. I don't want to see that fortification named after me on Mount Washington in northern Manhattan changed to Fort Kniphausen. Let's just hope we can stop all that from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, General, I should say.
My wife doesn't even call me George, she calls me the General.
He thought the sound of musket balls passing the Jews was charming.
As he mentioned, it was a long war. People think of the Revolutionary War and they think of Boston, they think of Philadelphia, and they made their contributions, but to a greater extent than most people realize, the sacrifices of the Revolutionary War were made here in New York. 3/4 of the patriots who died during the Revolutionary War died in New York, largely because this is where the British kept their awful prisons, and many people died in the Wallabat Bay or in the prisons in Lower Manhattan. So, to a large extent, the freedom we know as Americans was won here in New York by the sacrifices the people in this city made. It looks like we're getting ready to have the reenactment. The Americans are about ready to take the field here. So thank you so much for coming out today. Thank you for watching, and we very much appreciate having you here. Thank you very much.